Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with MR.Slade. He has just shared his awesome new cover of Blondie's Call Me, and I am super excited to talk to him all about it. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Before we clicked record, we were talking about the weather in our respective cities, which is not that exciting of a topic. Obviously, we're here to talk about music. And
We can talk
tip,
about the weather.
yeah, we could talk about the weather. Yeah, this is a weather podcast. We just talk
Mhm.
about rain and sun.
Variable
No,
barometric pressure
yeah,
starting
that's
from
that's what
like,
the people are listening for.
yes, exactly.
Usually I like to kick things off by talking about the lyricism within original songs, but this is a bit of a different situation. I don't often get to talk to people about their covers, which I'm really excited to because I always like to know why the reasoning is they get to pick the songs they do. So I'd love for you to sort of explain why Call Me.
Well, I mean, it's about male gigolos for one thing.
Well,
Um,
there you go. Priority number one.
there you go. Exactly. No, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Blondie. I'm a huge
Sure.
fan of that like time period of New York in like the late 70s, early 80s. And I
Mhm.
thought just the kind of the attitude of that, it was a very kind of carefree, kind of sexually flippant attitude, and which I thought
Yeah.
was kind of cool and kind of fun. I thought this would make a really cool, fun song. I think everyone also knows it too to some
Yeah.
degree. So
Totally.
it would be a kind of cool way to reinterpret it.
I agree. It's like you don't want to pick a cover song that is so out there that people think it's an original, and they're just like,
Yes.
"Oh, we love your song." Like, "Oh, it's actually a cover song." I don't know what
Exactly.
you're
Then you have
talking
to, I'm
about.
so sorry. Debbie Harry would be very upset to hear that. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, one thing I love about cover music, just in general, is some artists feel like they want to take the easy way out and kind of cover it word for word. You know what I mean? But what I really like about this song specifically is that you have actually reinvented the song. It's sort of like this
well, thank you.
lo-fi aesthetic, but it's got your music or your
Hmm.
sound. So, what was the thought process before going into this one? Before you were like, okay, this
Well,
is
I mean,
how.
again, it's a song about male gigolos, and again, it's at New York City, in the late 70s, early 80s, and so I really wanted that kind of seediness to it,
Yeah,
and I kind of, whenever I write a song or think of a song, it's more visual than it is audio, and I was really thinking like red light, walking down a pier, like I wanted it to kind of have that kind of slightly dirty,
sure.
adventurous, fun kind of feel to it.
Yeah. No, that's pretty reasonable. I wouldn't ever describe it as dirty sounding, but
Okay.
but I'm actually kind of happy that you brought that up because I do want to talk about the production and sort of like the process on the background. So, do you have any help recording, or not necessarily recording, but the producing side of your music? Do you have any outside help at
Yes.
all?
So I generally work with a couple of producers, and I'm very big on like and giving them more visual aspects and more of a visual feel
Okay.
in terms of what I want the sound to sound like. Um, I usually set up a drum beat and a drum bass, and then record the vocals, and then of course send everything off. But for me, again, it was reinterpreting that song and not making it a total cover or a karaoke version, but more kind of a reinterpretation of it.
Nice. Okay. And I also have to say, just aside from this song, you've been, fairly prolific this year with just being active on social media and releasing other music. Is this sort of your, year-end goodbye to the existing fans?
Yeah, it's a Christmas special to my fans.
Christmas special. Well, well, in that case, obviously I want to keep the focus on the song, but I also want to look towards the future a little bit. What does the next year hold for you?
Well, I've got a couple more songs I'm going to be releasing, and I think it's
Okay,
just more kind of strengthening my ethos and my sound, and
sure.
then just trying to reach as many people as possible with that.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. What about like sound and style? Are you going to be looking to experiment? Do you feel that you've sort of found your avenue of what you want to do?
Yes and no. I think that's kind of the cool thing about music. You can kind of find your avenue and find your own sound. But I think as an artist, you never want to be limited to that. You always kind of want to expand on that. You know, I'm very much inspired by music from like the 70s and the 80s
Right.
and bits of the 90s too, but reinterpreting it in the way in my own voice, right? So I think that to me is really important. Taking elements of what I like and then reinterpreting them in my own voice.
That's pretty reasonable. That makes sense. And as far as inspiration goes, obviously you've named some decades, but if you had to sort of narrow it down to some artists that have inspired some of your original music, who would that be?
Oh geez, everything from like AC/DC to like Kiss to the Blondie, obviously.
Nice.
I mean, I would say those three mainly, probably. But again, it's just taking like a kernel or an idea, or
Right.
even just kind of an attitude. Or for me, again, I'm much more of a visual artist as well. So to
Makes
me,
sense.
when I think of a song, I think more visuals. And to me, it was just that kind of idea of a very a time before social media where things were a lot more honest and a little bit more rougher, if that makes sense, like sexier and rougher.
A lot more mystery and suspense, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
And also
everything's
too
out
with
in the
it,
open.
yeah, there's a huge element of fun too. So I mean, going out was a lot more fun.
Exactly.
And I really wanted to kind of capture that dirty, fun, not terribly serious, but like adventurous kind of idea.
That makes sense. And so, as far as the process goes, does it ever start a different way for you? Does it always start with a lyric or a bass line that runs in your head, or is it always something different?
Generally, it's like lyrics and melody pop into my head, and I usually either write them down. In terms of songwriting, I give myself about 10 minutes to write a song, and then I put it down, and then I quit. For me, it really should come from like a source or a feeling more so than an idea or a mentality. And for me personally, when I'm writing a song, I give myself, like I said, 10 minutes because then I think you kind of switch brains from being creative to analytical. So it really needs to come from the guts.
That makes sense. So, at this point, how long have you been making music for?
I started writing about 6 years ago,
Okay,
but during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to kind of actually start recording things
right.
and starting putting pen to paper and start recording things and kind of getting things into fruition.
Sure. So, okay,
Everyone had a lot of time.
take me back 6 years then. Was there a turning point that you went from just a music enjoyer to music creator?
I worked in retail for a long time, and I would just get really really bored, and so I would just like flip
That would
songs
do
between.
it.
I mean, I'm sure I was supposed to be doing some job, and I'm sure my
Forget it.
manager's been like that. But I just got really bored, and so I started creating tunes and melodies, and then everyone else would start humming them along. I'm like, all right, this sounds like fun. And ultimately, it was just almost just kind of creating a soundtrack to my personal life, if anything. So
Sure.
that was the idea behind everything.
That's really cool, man. I always kind of I'm envious of those who can create like that. Obviously, I'm on the other side of the screen asking the questions. I wish I had the creative power to sit there and write a song and a melody, but I gotta give a shout out to you on that.
Oh, thank you.
So now that you've been doing this for quite a while, it seems, I want to know from the entire process, from the thought process to finally clicking the submit button, is there something you enjoy in the most in the middle?
Yes, everything. Oddly enough, I mean, it sounds like such a stupid answer, but I mean,
It's not.
no, to be honest with you, I think seeing the end result, going from like idea, this was an idea, this was just kind of a feeling, and then having some sort of physical, tangible audio kind of proof of an idea, which is always incredibly rewarding.
Right. But like any one specific thing, like the writing part or like the part that like the light bulb goes off or something like that.
To be honest with you, it's listening to a track that a producer has sent me for the third time. Usually, the first two times I'm like
Yeah.
incredibly nervous and like incredibly critical. But it's seeing the end result, seeing like again, and
Okay.
then being like, this was just an idea. This was just the thought process in my head, and now there's something tangible and
Sure.
almost physical, which is incredibly rewarding.
But do you work with different producers on different songs or do you have one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have two or three producers that I work with, depending on the kind of sound that I want.
Okay.
Um, Generally, I like to lay vocals, melody, lyrics. I lay a drum beat, and then I'll work with the guitars and the basses and give
Cool.
them direction in terms of what kind of sound I want or what kind of influences. And generally, the influences tend to be more feeling based or
Nice. Yeah.
visual based. So I'll end up sending them a bunch of different pictures from different eras and being like, I wanted to sound like a like a low speed car chase, or
That's very specific. Well, do you have
yeah,
like a
exactly.
you have like a local network of people in Toronto, or are these people that you've just worked with for a while now?
They're people I work with for a while
Okay.
that probably hate working with me.
Nice. Okay, so putting this song aside for just a moment, and let's say someone listens to your entire discography, is there something that you want your music to say about you as a person when someone listens?
Yeah,
Mm.
I would say I would be really honored if people thought of me as like a ringleader for mischief.
A
That would be
ringleader
kind
for
of
mischief.
yeah, yeah. I would be very honored, or I would be very satisfied if people thought, okay, yeah, your music's kind of like a really kind of fun getaway, or like it captures a moment, or it captures a feeling of carefree fun.
I
If
so so what I'm getting from this is you want people to listen to your music while they're committing crimes or they're out
I
having
said
wild
mischief, not
just
a
kidding.
felony.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
Having a
light
wild
shoplifting
night,
totally works.
light ship yeah, I was can't even talk. Shoplifting in say like a big corporate Walmart or something like
Yes,
that.
exactly, right? Yes, exactly.
And they
Or
got
making
Mr.
out with a
Slade on the back
stranger,
of
right? Yes. The soundtrack to
yeah.
Making Out with a Stranger. That's what I want my music to be.
You need to get t-shirts printed with that quote under your name on it.
Trademark. That's
Music to
right.
listen to while making out with a stranger.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
That
that's
would
kind of
pique
like
my
the fun
interest.
part.
I love that. Okay, so as your discography has continued to grow, first off, I don't know if you're already playing shows, but is that something that you'd like to do, or you're
A
already
hundred
doing it?
percent. Yes.
Okay,
No, like pre-COVID, pre-lockdown, yeah. I had a band and we played quite a lot of shows here in Toronto. And like that's like the most fun in the entire world is being able to connect with an audience. So I miss that
totally.
very much. So yeah, that's like definitely like on my top two things of things to do once this stupid
Right.
COVID thing is over.
Yeah, I know shows are sort of in the gray area in Canada at this point, and it's kind of all over the place. But I can imagine that a live show for you would be quite the exhilarating process.
A lot of
So,
sweat.
oh, well, hey, man, if there's
A
no sweat
lot
at
of
a concert, what's the point?
a lot of sweat on stage.
That's awesome. Well, I mean,
Some of it's mine.
let's cross our fingers for 22 and a big live music year for Canada.
That would be great.
Now, I know that you sort of described the music that you make, but in the grand scheme of things, is there a certain label that you'd put on it?
You know what? That's the funny thing and the hardest thing. When you're kind of marketing yourself, it's really hard to kind of figure out what your genre is. I mean, some people have called it electro rock or electro alternative
Sure.
or, glam punk or, disco metal. So I would say it's kind of a little bit of all of that.
Disco metal. I love that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's kind of the way that the music industry is going these days is because it's never been easier to make music. There's so much influence, oh, I'll put this patch on or
Yeah.
oh, I'll do this. So, it's kind of a good thing. You can get a broader audience.
It's a great thing. However, it's a double-edged sword because in terms of
Right.
like trying to find your audience, that makes it a little bit more trickier. But I've always kind of, never saw that as a limitation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I would, rather chop off my ears than follow a strict rule.
That makes sense. All right, going on this live music thing just a little bit more. I want to know of everything that you've made so far, or everything that you've got in the bank that's coming out, is there one specific song that you're looking forward to perform the most?
Yeah, my next song, it's called Love Assassins.
Nice.
Um,
Great name.
Thank you. I'm going to be releasing that in January, and there's quite a lot of clapping in it. So it's a lot of call and answer, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to perform live. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well. Who doesn't love a nice anthemic, live song?
Exactly.
There we go.
Kind of like an old school Queen, lots of clap, like audience participation and clapping. And I think
Very
that's kind of
cool.
the fun thing about music. It's just, I generally never write music from my own personal point of view. I think it's much more fun connecting with people and finding a common
Absolutely.
thread.
I fully agree. There's there's only so many things to write about at this point. Why not be relatable?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, I
I
go out a
agree.
lot. I party a lot with my friends. I have I think the things that connect us are far more exciting than the things that are, that make us unique, for lack of a better word.
Could not possibly agree more. All right, I've only got a few more questions for you at this point, but I want to sort of put aside the music for just a moment and make the realization that we're coming towards the end of this year, which is wild to even say.
I know.
Do you have any non-musical personal goals that you've set for yourself for this next
Yeah, to
year?
have more fun. Just kidding. No, I think I have
No,
way
no,
too much
I,
fun.
I, Listen, I don't know your personal life, but I can just say I think we could all use a little more fun, no
Yeah,
matter what you're
exactly.
doing.
To laugh a lot more and to make out with a lot more strangers.
There you go. To your music, of course.
To my music, of
There
course.
you go. All right. There have been so many incredible music releases from small artists, medium artists all over the world. What is on your playlist and what can you recommend everyone else listen to besides your music?
Um, I was just in the UK about a couple weeks ago,
Nice.
and there's a band called Steps that I've been listening to nonstop.
Okay.
And I mean, they were huge. They were a huge band in the '90s that just put out a new album. And what I love about that is they're all in their like mid to late 40s, but they have like one of the top 5 albums in the UK right now. I thought that's
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool that like these people in their 40s are like putting out really great music. It's fun, it's dancey, and I'm like, that's I've fallen into a steps hole.
Stepsoul.
Seriously.
Cool.
Yeah.
I actually have not heard of them, but I'll definitely check them out. Thank you
Yeah,
for
they
the
have a new album out.
recommendation.
It's pretty awesome. And what
Okay.
I love about that is it's kind of challenging the idea that you have to be of a certain age in order to put out music, or that music might be, relatable. And I think, you know, um, there's so many people in Gen X or baby boomers who are still looking for music.
Sure.
And I think it's wonderful to be able to kind of put out music that everyone's going to like and be able to connect with.
I agree. All right. Got one more question for you at this point. Basically, the question is for those that are going to discover you from this, and for those that are going to listen to your music for the first time, what is sort of an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
Have fun, and more importantly, be fun. Be the source of someone else's fun. I think that's so important. Like at the end of the day, we all have energy, we all receive and we all throw out energy. Be the kind of energy that people want to be around, and be the kind of energy that you want the world to be. So be fun.
I think that's about as clear as you could possibly be.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to thank you
Don't
so
be not
much.
fun.
Right. That's what we should all live by at this point. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this and sort of explain everything. But I also want to make the plea for everyone else to check out Mr. Slade's cover of Call Me, in addition to everything else he's put out because it's all stellar. And I'm personally invested at this point, so I can't wait to
Thank
hear
you.
everything else that is on the way. And again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. I hope to run into you someday or see a show and get sweaty or make out with a stranger to your music.
Done and done.
All of the above,
All of the
ideally,
above is better.
but I can only be so lucky. So we'll see.
I will set that up. My music will set that up for you. Don't
There you
worry.
go. All right. Take care and have a great rest of your night.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.